Welcome everyone. My name is Abbas and I'm the host for Laravel Nagpur Meetup. As most of you may know already that we have been doing these meetups every month since 2019, and this is well our 67th or probably 68th meetup. So thank you everyone for joining and thank you for joining every month. I hope you will all continue to join us in the future as well. So today we have Rissa Jackson with us, and she is a prolific speaker. She has spoken in all the Laracons in the world. In a single year, she has spoken at Laracon US, Laracon Europe, Laracon Australia, and of course, Laracon India. So I believe she is the only one who has completed the Grand Slam in a single year. Thank you, Rissa, for taking out time and joining this meetup. And that's it from my side, Rissa. I'll hand it over to you now.
Yeah, thank you. Such a lovely intro. I'm really excited to talk to all of you. Um, I think that's really lovely that you've been keeping this going for since 2019 every month. That's really nice. What a wonderful meetup. Great job, Abbas, on organizing. Today I'm going to be talking about Git Interactive Rebase. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Uh, so let's get over here. Is anyone, can you give me a thumbs up if everything is visible? Great. Okay, thank you. Um, so as Abbas said, I'm Rissa Jackson, and this is a talk called Is There Any Problem Git Interactive Rebase Can't Solve? Yes. Turns out there are many problems that can't solve. And if we just stopped there, this would be a very short talk. But since I still have some time, I'll start talking about what it could actually solve. So before we start talking about Git Interactive Rebase, we really need to understand what is Rebase. And a great way to understand Rebase is to understand branches and merge as well, so that we can understand another way of solving problems. So we have a picture here of a main branch that people would be working off of. And you can see that they've started a feature branch off of one of the commits and added some work onto it. You know, maybe this is adding a new screen. And then the main branch kept going. Some people have added new work to the main branch. So then you have to figure out how to bring that work back together, the main branch new work and the feature branch work. So one of your options is called merge. And merge is a way to kind of preserve the Git history. It puts the work together in a new commit called a merge commit. This one right here with this kind of star looking thing, that would be your merge commit. And so that's a way to bring the work together, but it preserves the history of, the where you started and where you deviated. Another option is a rebase. Rebase does not preserve history, it rewrites it. And so this is a very powerful tool. Instead of preserving what commit we started from for our feature branch, we rewrite it and we put the new work from the main branch, and then we put our feature branch on top of that. And these asterisks or stars, whatever you want to call them, these are showing the feature work with new commit hashes because they would have to change them to put them at the end. So this is how rebase works. It can be really nice sometimes to use a rebase because you have a very linear story. Everything's very straight. There's no merge commit. However, like I said, because you're rewriting history, that's where sometimes it can be dangerous. So we need to make sure that we know how to correctly use rebase so that we don't run into those dangerous scenarios. So now that we understand a little bit about branches and about rebase and merge, we're going to look at Git Interactive Rebase. And when you go into Git Interactive Rebase, you'll see a very similar list of commands like this. And I really like that aspect of Git Interactive Rebase. It makes it clear what I can use. But I don't know about you. If I see a large amount of text, my eyes sort of glaze over. It's hard to parse it and to read through it. So let's not look at this as a whole. We're going to start pulling out some pieces and looking at them so that we don't get confused about all the things it can do. So, one of the most simple to understand and use is that there is a drop command. So, basically, that means you can pull up a list of commits and then you could pick one to drop. Now, this is destructive. It will not just get rid of the commit, but it will get rid of the work. So, you need to make sure you really want to do this. You can get rid of it by typing drop or typing D. I'll be typing the full word just so that it's easy to follow. But that's a um, pretty understandable tool to use. So if we had a series of commits and we did a get log, you see this unnecessary commit. So we're going to want to get rid of that. I'm going to do that by going into Vim mode, but there's other ways to do this. You don't have to use Vim, but I'll talk about what I'm doing in Vim just so you can follow. So I would have to select that git hash. And to get into the rebase, I would do git rebase dash I with the git hash. And very importantly, at the end, I have this little squiggly line. It's called a tilde. That is going to say that I want to include this commit. Otherwise, if I just put the hash, it would do all the commits up until that. It wouldn't include it. So in this case, it's only one commit, and it shows me that it's saying pick right now. So when we look at the list of commands, it says pick is use the commit. So that's just its base level is to use the commit. But I don't want to use the commit. So let's look at what that would look like. So like I said, I would be doing this in Vim mode. So I'm going to explain the process in Vim mode. So I would put the cursor at the beginning of pick, and then I would type CW. And CW means change word. The great thing about CW is it gets rid of the word pick, but it also puts me in insert mode in Vim. So that means that I can type a new word. If I wanted to just delete it and not get into insert mode, I could do DW, delete word. So both of those are options. I do the CW because that's a little more faster. I don't have to go to insert mode after. And then I would just type in the word drop. After that, I need to get out of the Vim mode. So I would hit escape colon WQ or right quit. And that just saves the work that I've changed in Vim. And then, so if we look at our git log again, we don't see that commit. It's completely gone. The work is gone as well. Remember, this one's destructive. So now that we've looked at a really simple example, let's look at a slightly more powerful one. If you've ever used git git commit dash dash amend, this is very similar to that, but it's a little bit more powerful. As you may already know, git commit dash dash amend is only usable for the last commit you've used. So if we did git commit rebase dash I, we have two tools, reword and edit. So reword, the only thing we would be doing is editing the commit message. But if we wanted to do more, kind of like the amend, we wanted to add some new work or remove some work, then we can do edit. So edit gives you the chance to not only change the commit message, but change the work inside the commit. You need to be careful with using this, especially if you're going pretty far back, because it can cause merge conflicts and some issues. So this is kind of the issues hinted at, I've hinted at for Rebase. So be careful with using edit and make sure that when you're using it, you know what the ramifications are for that. There's another powerful combination of tools. They're called Squash and Fixup. So Squash is where we can take two commits, for example, And let's say we have a commit that's, you know, clean up, and then we saw another thing we had missed and we clean up again. And so that's not very nice looking in the Git log. So we could use squash and we would smush these two commits together. So it melds the child commit into the parent commit. However, in Squash's case, it will keep both commit messages. So there will be two commit messages. Fixup is very much similar like Squash, but it discards the child commit message. So if our parent commit was cleanup and our child commit was cleanup again, it would only keep the cleanup commit. I've talked to a couple people who were aware of Squash and had been using it, so they had been putting commits together, but they weren't aware of how to use Fixup. And so they had just been going back and editing commit messages to get rid of the second one. And they were really excited to hear about Fixup. So hopefully, if that's something you're already working with, that you can now add Fixup to your list of tools. So let's look at a Squash example. This is a commit. This is one commit hash, but we have two commit messages. So that's what a squash would do. Now, fixup would be a little bit different. So we have cleanup and cleanup again. Cleanup is the parent commit, cleanup again is the child commit. And so we would do our git rebase dash I, and we would use the parent commit hash and then the cleanup one. And then we would add the tilde or the squiggly line at the end because we want to make sure that this includes the parent commit. And like before, we're going to do this in Vim mode. So let's take a look at what that would look like. So on the child commit, I would put my cursor and I would do CW for change word and go into insert mode. I'd write fixup and then escape colon WQ, right quit. And the reason I'm putting this on the child commit is you need to put it on the child commit so it melds that into a parent commit. If I put it on the parent commit, if I put it on cleanup, it will error. And so I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. But now we just have one commit. We have one new commit hash because this is the new commit. And it only has one message, cleanup. All right. So let's say instead we put fixup on the parent commit. Um, this is the message you would get at the bottom. Cannot fix up without a previous commit. So this would error out and it's definitely fixable, but it's a little bit annoying. So just letting you know that that is one thing that can happen. But anytime we get into any trouble in Rebase, our get out of jail free card is git rebase dash dash abort. So if you have something happening and you're not quite sure what it's going on or if it's what you wanted, just abort it. And that's a really great way to stop it and start over. I use this a lot instead of trying to debug the rebase error. Sometimes I try and figure it out, but it's sometimes easier just to start from scratch. Maybe you made a little typo, maybe you hit something a little bit wrong. So this is a nice way to start over. Now, at the end of your rebase, you're going to have to get push your work and it's not going to work. So you're going to actually use a get push with force, dash dash force. But that can be kind of scary. We've talked about how there can be some issues with Rebase. One of the issues is that maybe you're working on a feature and then one of your coworkers is also working on the same feature branch. If you both do some work and then you rebase and you get push dash dash force, you can cause some big issues for your coworker because you both have your own Git history and it's now separate. You've rewritten Git history and they have their own version of it on their computer and you've made it so it's harder for them to be up to date with what you're working on. So that's why Rebase can be kind of scary, especially if people are working on multiple branches. So instead, our way of handling that is what I call the Canadian force. I don't know if this joke translates as well over here, but Canadians are well known for being super polite, saying sorry a lot. Um, you could also think of it as British force, but basically git push dash dash force dash with dash lease. This is a force where if there's some weird stuff happening on the branch, it won't work. So it's kind of like instead of forcing your work through, it's kind of like knocking on the door and asking if it's okay to send this work through. Um, so this is a screen recording that I did of Fix Up originally. And we aren't going to look at this for too long. So when I originally did this talk, every time I did a dry run, this worked perfectly and it started at the beginning. But the very first time I did this live, it didn't work and I panicked a little and then had to go over and do this live without this example. And a lot of people enjoyed me working on this with live coding instead of, showing a video. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to a demo and we're going to talk about some of these things and show how some of these things work. So we're on our rebase branch. And before we do any rebase, we should check that our branch is clean, that there's no work just sitting there. So I'm going to do a get status. And I would typically use a lot of uh, aliases to do this work. I wouldn't type out get status, but I'm not going to use that for the demo because I want it to be very clear what I'm doing. Normally I would just type GS, but I won't do that. Okay, so it looks like I have some work sitting on my uh, branch. So I need to make sure that's committed before I do anything else. So I want to show you another visual thing you can do in the terminal. I really love the terminal and I love ways to make it visual. So I can do a git add dash dash patch. I think it's two dashes. Great. Okay. So this work and it's showing me this work in what's called a hunk. And you can see that there's only one of these. Um, so I've added a protectable fillable name to a model and it gives me some options. Y, N, Q. We don't need to know all of these things. Y means yes, N means no, Q means quit. So those are the main ones you want to know. So I like this work. I'm going to hit Y for yes. And so then if I did a get status, I see that this is staged. And so then I can make my commit message. So I'm going to do git commit dash M. Let's do add fillable to the tag. All right. So now if I do a get status, all right. So there's nothing waiting for me to work on. So instead I can do a git log and see what kind of commits we have. So we have our latest commit, the add fillable. Okay, great. We just added that. We have a delete me commit. So this is a commit that we don't want. We want to get rid of. And we have a cleanup again. We have a cleanup. Okay, so those are probably going to be our fix up examples. And then we have a whip commit. That one could be named better. So let's start working on cleaning up this Git history so that we have a more clear story. So we're going to get rid of this delete me commit. And the way that we do that, we're going to copy this commit hash. And I don't have to use all of this Git hash. I could have just used a couple of characters of it. But the reason I always copy the whole thing, if for some reason there are similar hashes, which is pretty unlikely, but if there was, it would be confused on which one to use. But if you use the full path, it will always know which one you're talking about. So I'm going to do a git rebase dash I with this hash. And I'm going to add that tilde squiggly line at the end, and I'm going to hit enter. And then it takes me into Vim mode, and it shows me the two commits. This is the newest commit, so this is a child commit, and then the parent commit is the delete me one. So I'm going to go CW, so that deletes the word, but it puts me in insert mode. And then I'm going to say drop because I don't want this commit anymore. I don't know if you can see it, but down here is where the drop is, remove commit. So I'm going to go escape colon WQ, and then it says successfully rebase. So if I do a git log again, that commit is now gone. We have the add fillable to tag and clean up again. So let's go ahead and clear just so that we don't have a lot of noise. And then we're going to do a git log again to do some more work. So let's see, how about we fix up this whip commit? Um, we're going to make this a little bit clearer. And to do so, we're going to want to look at what's in that work. So maybe we do a git show with this commit. And so then we can kind of see what's in this commit. So it looks like we've added a relationship. The tags is getting added to the post model, and it's a belongs to many. Okay, nice. And then we've added a tag model. Okay, very simple work, but this doesn't really need to be called a whip commit. So let's go ahead and, oh, there we go. Let's go ahead and rename that. So we have our hash saved. So let's do a git rebase dash I, and don't forget the squiggly line or the tilde. And then, so we see our whip commit, we're going to do CW, and then we're going to say edit. Not edit, actually. We don't want to change any of the commit work. We just want to change the commit message. So we'll use reword because reword uses the commit, but it doesn't change like the work. It just changes the commit message. So it's good to use this palette to kind of remind you of what things do and what tool you're looking for. So I have hit escape, and then I'm going to do colon write quit because I want to save my work. And then that takes me into still Vim mode, but it takes me to the commit and allows me to change this. So I'm going to do CW to be in insert mode and start over. And I'm going to write a new commit message. So let's say add the tag, model, and relationship. That's a little bit more descriptive. And then I'll hit escape, colon, write, quit. So now if we do a git log, we see add fillable to tag, and we see add the tag model and relationship. That's a little bit more of a clear history. You know, we have the add the comment model and relationship. So all of that is clear and easy to follow for the reviewer. So let's get out of that. And then I'll clear. So we've done a couple of cool changes to our get log, but we want to do our most powerful one, our fix up. So let's go back to get log. And so we have cleanup and we have cleanup again. So we're going to want to take the parent commits hash and then get out of that. Git rebase dash I. We're going to have to use that squiggly line or tilde so that we can keep the parent commit. And then remember that we're going to put the fix up on the cleanup again, the child commit, not the parent commit, because otherwise it errors. So we'll do CW and we'll do fix up. Remember, squash uses the commit, but melds into the previous commit. Fix up is similar, but it only keeps the parent commits log message. And we only want one of the log messages. We don't need cleanup and cleanup again. So we'll hit escape, colon, WQ, write quit. And then if we do get log, all we see is cleanup, one commit. This is a new commit hash. And so we have a much more clean history that we're looking at. We have add fillable to tag, we have cleanup, we have add the tag model and relationship, add the comment model and relationship. So it's just a much easier story to read, and that can be really nice for the reviewer. Now, I think I already mentioned this, but we're not going to be able to just push this work. If I try get push, because I've done a rebase, it's going to reject it. It's going to fail. So what I need to do is I'm going to need to do a get push with force, but that's potentially dangerous. Now I know I'm the only one working on this branch, but if I didn't know, what I would want to do is a get push dash dash force with leaf. And even when I know that it's safe, I just reach for this same command because it's so much easier to just make sure that that's my default instead of having to stop and think, oh, is this safe to use force or not? I can just always use the safe one. So I'm going to hit get push, and then you see that it worked. So that's really nice. I've made this a little bit cleaner for a viewer. So we'll go back to our demo or back to our slides just to finish up. So I'm not going to go too far into these because we've already spent a lot of time on this stuff and I don't want to take too much more time. But there's a lot of cool things that you can use with Git. There's Git work trees. That's a way to work on multiple branches at the same time without having to save your work or commit your work. Git bisect is a really powerful way to use binary search to figure out maybe where a test started failing or where a bug was introduced. Git grep is a powerful search that searches through Git specifically, and there's a lot more. But I hope that this has piqued your interest in exploring Git more and realize that, Git rebase is not as scary as it might seem initially. A really fantastic way is to make a, empty Laravel project and just mess around and try these commands, one where it will not hurt anything, and then you can kind of figure out where the boundaries are and how it works. So hopefully this has piqued your interest in Git. And I'm Rissa. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks a lot, Rissa. That was really insightful. So now the floor is open for questions. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Also, I'm putting in the link to the uh, giveaway form. So if you are interested in PHP Storm license, please fill the form and then we'll do a raffle live. Let me send the link in chat quickly.
That's really neat that you're giving away a PHP Storm license. I love PHP Storm.
So I have a question for you, Rissa.
Sure.
Are there any GUI tools available to work with Rebase, or you normally we have to work only with the terminal for that?
You can definitely use GUIs or GUIs. There are lots of great ones. There's Git Kraken, there's a large amount, and I don't know most of them because I don't personally use them. But I know people who use them really successfully, have great experiences with Rebase and even Git Interactive Rebase. And so if that's your style, that's totally fine. I like to show the terminal because that's the way that I use this. And then also, I think some people get nervous about using the terminal. So it's nice to maybe see that it's not quite as intimidating as it maybe initially seems, but you definitely can use whatever your tools are most likely already have this capability.
Okay, cool. Anyone else has any questions? And I have posted the link to the PHP Storm license giveaway form. So if you're interested in PHP Storm, please fill that form. Um, in the meantime, next question again from me, Rissa. How
Sure.
often do you use Rebase in your day-to-day work?
Um, I use it a lot, usually before I'm making a pull request, before I'm making a PR, because I
Okay,
want to make sure that I'm setting up a really nice journey or story for the reviewer to look at. And then also I do it for myself because if I'm looking at my work, in the future, it really tells me what I did where and why I did it. And that can be really nice when I'm trying to understand my thought process from the past. I think we all have that experience of looking at our past work and just think like, what was I thinking? Or what did this mean? And
yeah,
so it can be a really nice way to give yourself some clues. Not everyone likes to do this, and that's totally fine. You don't have to, but I think for me, it's really nice. And for me as a reviewer, it's really nice to have this.
Okay, and which operation do you perform most in the rebase? Is it fix up or squash or drop or what?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I probably use like the edit most often because you type some kind of commit message and then later you're like that didn't really make sense or doesn't that's not a really good description. But I do love fix up because I think all of us have that experience of like making a commit and then realizing we didn't finish it and then maybe it's like too late so we have to like yeah go back a little bit to fix that. So that one's a really nice tool too.
Cool. Okay, so we have only three entries so far. So out of the 15 odd people, only three people are interested in PHP Storm lessons. No one else.
You should jump on that. PHP Storm's great.
Okay, let me start the refill now. I'll share my screen in a moment. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. In the meantime, and no one has any other questions for Rissa?
And if you feel more comfortable, you can definitely reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn or any way that you feel comfortable messaging, and you can ask questions there as well if that's more comfortable for you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, everyone can see the wheel. Yeah, only three names so far. Let me reload just to make sure no one else has filled in the form. Nope, only three names. So I'm running the wheel now. All the best. It is Rita. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, then I guess that's it for this month. Thanks a lot, Rissa, for taking out time and joining with us. And thank you, everyone who has joined. I hope you'll be joining next month as well. And as always, I'm on the lookout for new speakers. So if you're interested in speaking at the meetups, please feel free to submit your talks or get in touch with me. It need not be necessarily be on Laravel, but anything related with web development or coding in general can be done. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. Bye bye.